Hi friends, welcome back to Bol Basantii season 3. Today I have a very special guest called Rituja Sawant. Rituja and I actually met each other when we were working for a company in Hyderabad. While I was working from Hyderabad, she was operating from Bombay. And there was a lot of common factors. And to be very honest, this very podcast is the first time I'm meeting her in person. We've always met on Zoom calls, have had very lovely and very enlightening conversations over calls and all. But yeah, I think this podcast has made me meet her in person, and I'm like wondering, why didn't I meet her all this while in person? So hi Rituja, thank you so much for coming. Rituja is a writer and she specializes in writing for kids and young adults, and her books have been published and she's won accolades for a lot of the things that she's done. But I would like Rituja to tell, I know she's not the one blowing her own trumpet, but today you have to.
Thank you so much, Richa. It's so lovely to finally meet you. I think we waited a little too long on, meeting each other. It's really, really nice. And when I got your message, to be a part of your, really wonderful podcast, it was a very instant thing for me, I just was like, yes, I want to go meet you. And in fact, it was weird, like when we just met, it felt like we've met before, yes. But of course we've only met on Zoom, and I'm really, really thrilled for you for this new beginning. So
thank you.
Congratulations for taking that first step, because, the universe is listening, and all the best. I am sure you are going to go from, strength to strength on this one. So hi, I'm Rituja, and as she introduced me in a very generous way, that I've written for children and I have many accolades, but my journey has been a little unconventional. So maybe not so. आजकल सब लोग बोलते हैं हाँ मैंने पहले engineering पढ़ी थी फिर मैंने ये कर लिया. So it's a little cliched.
Were you an engineer as well?
Yes. So I have studied.
I attract engineers.
I think you have a type. So by education, I did civil engineering.
Wow.
And towards the end, I kind of had an allergy, like a specific health issue, because of which I realized that that's not something I can probably pursue. And it's very strange how, I stumbled upon this whole kids space. So I was waiting for my results and I said, okay, let's take up something. And that's when I joined the Times NI, Newspaper in Education, which is a educational, which is a newspaper in schools.
Yeah.
And I just happened to take that on. And that was my first experience being around such, bright, energetic, passionate young minds. And I was like, okay, this is nice. I have younger siblings, so I do have some experience with kids. But working with them and, we used to organize a lot of competitions and workshops and stuff like that, gave me a, little bit of taste of what it would be like to work in this space. And then kind of, it's strange, right? So when you sort of open your mind to something like this, the opportunities just started connecting together. So after which I actually was working with MET's Rishikul Vidyalaya as a teacher for 2 years for really young children, the playgroup and nursery and mother toddler. So that was a wonderful experience. At the same time, I felt like, okay, maybe I want to do something wider. I don't want to impact just the 100, 200 children I work with. Maybe this is something I can do, maybe in the media space. And I was really, really fortunate enough to actually get an opportunity to work with Amar Chitakatha and Tinkle. And Anant Pai, Uncle Pai, as he's fondly known, is the founder, and he has interviewed me. So when I got that, and I actually got a letter. This was 2007, so it's not that long ago. I used to get emails for getting shortlisted to interviews and all, but I actually had, and I've kept it, of course, it's very precious. I have this letter signed by Uncle Pai asking me to come for an interview.
Wow.
And, so like old world, and there's some charm to it, right? And I was like, okay, I don't care what happens in the interview. I'm getting an opportunity to sit across Uncle Pai and have a conversation. And of course, the interview lasted like an hour and a half, of which maybe 20 minutes must have been the actual interview. And then we were just talking about books and reading and the impact and the friendship that Tinkle gave me over the years growing up. In fact, I was hospitalized as a child, and I shared that incident with Uncle Pai, and I thanked him that, that week in the hospital, I only survived because I read Tinkle Digest, Tinkle Double Digest, anything that my grandfather sort of bought. Yeah. And I just gave him a lot of love and gratitude. I said, it doesn't matter what comes off of this conversation. To me, it is just my, life's dream to meet someone like you, such a wonderful creator. And he was just magical. Some people are just visionaries, not really belonging to a time or anything. He just had that wonderful, he was a legend in the true sense. You'd break into these shlokas and stuff. So he's been a huge, I didn't have that much opportunity to work with him very closely for very long. But whatever little was, has certainly, I think, informed my growth as a content creator for children, because he always, had this one thing that it should be fun. Children's writing should have joy and stories, and you should not get preachy, and the learning should be, there in it, but not for them to know, and I think that is what I still hold very close as my philosophy when I create content for children. I kind of look for that joy, the joy of listening to a story, or writing or reading a story.
One thing that I noticed is because in today's content, when it comes to especially kids, I feel a lot of content does not have the innocence that a child should be having now. Like nowadays I see kids are losing the innocence of being the child. They're growing up so fast, and even like when on cerebral level also, they're like very far much wiser, sometimes maturer, and sometimes saying things and all which we would be like, we never knew talked all of that.
Yeah.
And I feel that, somewhere social media is also taking away a lot of innocence from them. But when I read your writing, like, your book and everything, it had that innocence, the joy, like as a child, it brought back the child in me. I'm not somebody who's read comics, and when I was a kid, I was not I used to read fiction a lot, but obviously there was school books and all of that. So reading a book which is meant only for kids, school time, it was obviously those stories that, the turtle and the rabbit and all of that. So there were, at my point of time, I would say there were no such writers who were specifically writing for kids. Something which was just focused on kids was not there. And now I'm glad that we are in this era where you do have access to it. But when I read your writing, because the other writing that I've seen of kids, somewhere I see that the innocence is stripped off.
Yeah, so I do agree with you. We do have now, we are really lucky. We are, in this era that there are wonderful kids authors, and especially Indian authors who are creating content. And I think one of the things that some people tend to forget, you start writing as an adult.
Yeah.
You have to write, there's an inner child in all of us. And I think when you're creating content, especially for children, that is the perspective or way in which you write, you come right from your inner child, and then it's only all, curiosity and discovery and just the joy of experiencing a story. There is no ulterior motive there.
Yeah. When I'm reading your writing, it's like, I feel like it's a child who's written it. That curiosity, that, that, oh my God, I found this, that joy.
The sense of wonder. You cannot write for children without that, capturing that sense of wonder.
Because, when you are already an adult who's seen life, and you're a mother too as well, right? Yeah. So, that nurturer thing, like we as women, we are nurturers, but I see that you have a very strong side of a nurturer, and that comes across not just to a child, it's just there everywhere. Yeah. And you're not even imposing, it's just there. Yeah. Everybody feels that nurturing, that care, and that, taken care of Allah feeling. But when I see your writing, when I read your writing, then I'm like, how does this woman separate all of this and just have that inner child? Because that's very evident, that wonderment, that joy, and that, all that excitement that a child feels. It's there in your words, and it's the most simplest forms. It's not like some high-end words that you're using, because it's such a kid reading. A kid cannot be reading and understanding those big words. But in that simplicity also, I just feel that, how do you do it? Like, you're a mother, you're a working woman, you have experienced life, you have seen the dark and the good side of life. And then having that innocence, that purity in your writing, and as if it's a kid who's written it with all the excitement. How do you do that? What's the process? I want to know that process.
Okay, so firstly, I'm going to just say upfront, thank you. That's a huge compliment. I think Picasso or somebody had said that, it took me a lifetime to paint like a child. And it takes, holding on to that innocence that is there, which is very rare to adults. So the process is something that has evolved. Okay, over the years, I use what I call something like a tuning fork to sort of resonate back with my inner child, right? So I love art. I just love playing with colors and painting. So a lot of times, to create that instant connect or to access my inner child, I spend time doing things that I love, especially either it's reading or it's art or it's gardening. So all of this, I don't know, somehow brings back that joy of me being a child. And I must admit that, I'm a mother to an 8-year-old boy. And there is something that, of course, comes from there as well. Just observing your child grow, because it gives you again an opportunity to connect back with your inner child. It's a very wonderful thing. I think one of the most beautiful thing about parenting or having a child is it allows you to open your heart and mind to the possibilities of love and wonderment. Yet again, if you've closed up, it kind of just blossoms. You allow yourself, because with a child, you can be a child. In a sense, so I think a lot of that writing comes from there. So I do make it a point when I'm creating and also paint for creating artworks, for children's rooms and stuff like that. I do have just one rule: when I'm not feeling good, I'm not feeling too well, or I'm feeling a little low on energy, I don't work that day. So I focus on working from a space of joy of creating. So I don't beat myself up about it. I take that time away. I re-energize, refresh myself, do maybe something to do with meditation, mindfulness, whatever it takes. And I bring that, energy to at least a harmonious space. So I always work from joy. So I am hoping that I can continue tapping into that. So I don't know if it answers your question.
No, it does, of course. I mean, I just wanted to understand the process, and obviously we have our ways we get into that mode and all. I mean, now that I'm talking and I'm like looking at you in person, I feel like that I don't think so you have to do much, because you still have that innocence and that purity in your eyes and smile that I can see.
Yeah.
And you may do things to bring out that, but I think your inner child is very much still the innocent and pure.
Out to play is how. So I get this a lot. Today I have like aged myself up, if you can say that. Otherwise I usually have like a large bow on my hairband. And I wear stars and hearts and so I'm like, I live there, and I'm always checking out I don't have a daughter, but my friends have. And so sometimes I'm looking at their clothes and I'm like, I want that in a larger size. So yeah, I think being an adult and behaving like an adult is extremely overrated. And yes, being mature, being responsible towards your duties as an adult is a necessity. But pretending to be this grown-up who has it all figured out, I think it's a sham.
Yeah, this was there in my first podcast season also, that why do we connect maturity with being this serious, boring person? Like, you're supposed to be like this. You can't. If you're mature, you're not supposed to be funny. You're not supposed to be silly. Like, why do you have to make sense all the time? I don't want to make sense all the time.
No, nothing does. Life doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
it's absurd.
And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
And I think because children don't think so much is why they're like happy, like thapad maar diya, gussa bhi kar liya, uska phir wapas apna khelne lagta. And I'm like, that is so cool. And I obviously when you start growing up, people say, oh, you need to behave like a certain way. And for a few years I started being like that, but I was like, this is not me. I am not this person. Like, there are times when my friends and even my family, so I'll listen to some song, I'll start jumping on my bed, even today, and they'll be like, no wonder nobody's going to marry you.
You will find another soul.
I'm like, no problem. Nobody has that shit together. I feel nobody has it. Yeah. We all are clueless, headless chicken. I feel like let life surprise you. Let life take its own course and surprise you, and just live whatever it's giving.
When people talk about growing up and being, it doesn't mean that you can't be silly or stiff, but I feel there is a very clear difference, between being childlike and childish.
Yes.
I would make that distinction, because you do see a lot of adults who, maybe behaving childish. So those are things that you need to work on yourself, because obviously life is a journey. So, and it would be abnormal if we were exactly like how we, behaved when we were children. Obviously not. That doesn't mean we don't retain that wonder, that, that love, that curiosity, that childlike innocence, as you said. That, of course, is precious and, worth holding on to, and not getting jaded in, and having this, what's the point kind of an attitude, which you see a lot with
cribbing and complaining. But kids don't,
because that lacks hope, you have to move on, you have to refresh your energy, move to the next moment and be that, happy.
I think kids have that. Soul. They're very adaptive that way. They know how to let go.
They know how to let go.
Like this.
Yeah. They don't carry this baggage, they drop it and they run and play the next game. So I think we need to sort of hold that part. But yet, of course, we learn to
you can't be stupid.
Stupid also you can be. Being a little more aware of our emotions, actions, and taking responsibility for them is what growing up, I would say, is about. That would be a little different from how you are as a child, because at that time you don't have that concept. But I would,
and you don't have responsibility.
Distinguish it like that. Still behaving as if you don't have any responsibilities or your actions don't have consequences. That's not realistic. Because then that would be childish.
Yeah, that
in that sense. Yeah.
So take it from her. If you don't listen to
my 2 bits,
she is far much more wiser than I am. So even if I've been howling all of this time, but please listen to me.
No, don't listen to me. I mean, somebody's a wise person is somebody's fool. So let's leave it at that. But those are my 2 bits on this.
Since we spoke about motherhood, and that is something that you have mentioned about that's something like achievement of sorts on an emotional level. So how have things changed you after you became a mother? Because as I just said, that when the child is born, a mother is also born.
Yes, absolutely. And that is the only way to work. So, I do take great pride in my parenting and my nurturing duties. I think as a personality, I have been a bit of a nurturer. I have younger siblings. I have that naturally. So I'm, I love animals. I love gardening. So there is that aspect to my personality. So I won't say it's all learned. So a bit of it is, what do you say, nature.
That's your wiring.
That is my wiring. And I think maybe it's something that comes from my mom or my family or just the way we were brought up. And it's wonderful to have, because when you're nurturing to people around you, you also know how to nurture yourself. So that's a great quality, I would say. But as a parent, I think I would firstly say it's such a joy. Yes, it is not easy. It requires a lot of shift of perspective. It requires assessment of, what your priorities are in life, and all of that of course happens. At the same time, I feel like having children is that one opportunity to learn how to love unconditionally, because it's like this is your best case scenario. This is literally your child, biological or not, that's immaterial. When
that's actually immaterial.
Exactly. But it's an opportunity that this is this being, right, that you have in your life, whom you actually can experience unconditional love with. So I feel like it's a wasted opportunity when people don't kind of look at it that way. And of course, they will grow up. They're not bringing up adults. I mean, they're not bringing up children like that. They're going to grow up and become an adult.
Yeah.
But that entire journey is beautiful, because I think it's two-way. One is that you are experiencing this being, right? And how much of an impact you can have on, somebody you are bringing up. And second is the impact they have on you, because you get an entry back into your own childhood.
Yeah.
It's like a backdoor entry, suddenly you can be like, having this very stressful meeting, and you get off your call and then you're playing like racing cars with your kid. It's a very quick sort of a shift, and children allow that. And I would always say that, I am eternally grateful to have been a parent during COVID, like of a young child, because it is really my kid that kept me sane and going. Because the world seemed like it was falling apart. And, just having that beautiful soul, so simple, so grounded, and we were just living in the moments. That's another thing children can teach you, mindfulness.
Yeah.
Because they are here and now. They are not
anywhere else
ever. And I don't know where, somewhere along the way, we get too caught up and we let go of the present moment, and we are either lagging behind the past, or we are trying to swim towards an indefinite future. Yeah. So I think living in the
which none of us have a control, and we think, we can control.
Yeah, I mean, that illusion is very strong though. The illusion of control, it takes a while to sort of, wipe it out.
It's never in our hand, and when we think it is, that's the time when it's actually not.
Absolutely, I agree with you. It's shockingly like, when you see it now, suddenly when you unsee, like, the layers go away of all this perspective pe jo, social conditioning hai, ya khud ki, whatever your biases are. And suddenly you have that moment of clarity and you realize, what am I doing? Like, why am I even thinking that I can actually control any outcome?
Obviously, we as humans, we do have a certain, we want to control a certain bit, if not all of it. Kuch to ki haan nahi, ye. Because I've seen a lot of people, unki planning kafi work karti hai. I have examples of people who planned it out. But I realized, at least in my life, most of the times, the things that have been spontaneous have actually been good for me. But my wiring with the Almighty and within me, it's like, beta, I'm there to take care of you. Just let it be. Leave it in my hands. You'll be where you are supposed to be at the right time, at the right place, and you will get what you want. So
that's a wonderful thing. I mean, kudos to you. Not too many people have that kind of courage to, be true to their alignment. Like, what you're feeling.
I don't know alignment and all. I just, I always, like we were talking, I always felt a connection with Shiva, and not in the space of Bhaktwala. It was from childhood. I always spoke to him in a way as a child would to their father, like, or their parent. So even when I was a child, I used to say कि भगवान उसी को ही problems देते हैं, because they want that child to become stronger. Until you will not face anything, you can't become stronger by just sitting, I'm strong. You will face difficulties. Right. There have been so many instances in my life that some people have come for like 1 or 2 meetings and everything, but they would have changed the course, and probably without even them knowing, or maybe they were just God sent or whatever, that I'll find solution, I'll find answers to things that I was looking at. Like, you were one of those. As I said, we always had Zoom calls, which is obviously with everybody, but I always used to just observe you that in the tightest of spot, because I remember that in our Zoom call meetings, how gracefully and poised and how you used to hold that situation and hold your ground without losing your this thing. And I was like, I have this, but not to the level that this woman has, and I want to have that.
Oh, that's very
that was the first trait that I wanted to imbibe.
Sometimes you can get sucked into a conversation that you don't want to broach.
Yeah.
And that's very tricky, because you can, when things get uncomfortable and confrontational, people sort of pull you in, right?
You didn't do it on purpose.
Of course.
But I think that's probably your purpose.
Exactly. We don't know how that sort of, ties in. Yeah.
And now that today, before the podcast, when you started getting it, I was like, no wonder we were feeling some connection.
Yes.
No wonder you felt, and honestly, I knew in my head that I've never met you in person. But it was always like, I know how she looked like. I know how this is how she's going to talk. I know this is how she sound, obviously I knew.
Yeah.
But like this is
There's
how
a
your
sense of
body
familiarity,
language,
which
familiarity,
you don't
which is
know
very
where it
weird.
comes from. Yeah.
And now I know why. Like there's a lot of
I think
common
we
grounds.
probably have some old soul connect.
Somewhere,
Possibly.
maybe ho sakta hai.
No, but I'm very glad, and I cannot underestimate the importance of the fact is, everybody tells you many things, especially when it comes to work and overworking, having this really, sort of a high power career is very glorified for men and women both. But I feel like our first and foremost responsibility is towards our well-being. And
So
nothing, we were just talking before, right? That how nothing is worth messing with that health.
Yeah.
You can squander away your money, your time, and you still figure that out. But once you squander away your health, it takes a long time to heal and then get back to, where you'd like to be with your health. So yes, safeguarding that is, I don't think we articulate it enough, and it happens to all of us. Sometimes we make decisions, okay? We can't know how it will pan out. And sometimes it doesn't, and then it's a mistake. And it's an opportunity to learn, because that's what mistakes are, right? Or failures are. But what we forget is that just because we've decided, acha, this is not working, next day, say you're not going to be like completely back to square one. There is an unlearning or a healing or undoing that decision and its consequences. That takes time. We've started living in this very click kind of culture where you think that just because you add something to the card or delete, it's gone. It doesn't work like that. We're human. We absorb feelings, thoughts, habits, everything. And to get away from not a great experience or a negative feeling is going to take some time for it to leave you completely. It's not abrupt. And which is where I feel like a meditation practice or any mindfulness activity can be very helpful, because you've pushed it aside, look at it, process it, and then let it go, with love. Because there is something good that comes out of every experience. Something that we all don't realize, that we work 8 to 10 hours a day. Actually, that's our most overlapping, intimate relationship.
More than that.
In your field, it's like
half
I'm just
of
saying,
the
even
day
if you
is
assume 10 ghanta din ka, that's your awake time. Kitna hota hai? 16 ghanta hota hai max. In that, if 10 hours you're spending with people you work with, then actually they are your close relationships, because they're with you. It's intimate in that sense, it's a lot of time spent together. You spend time with your partner, children, family members, all of that, but that's very few hours a day. Of course, you coexist with them in the same house, but we don't underestimate that the fact is, when you're spending 8-10 hours every day working so closely, of course it's going to feel like that's a very important relationship.
And now when you say that, it reminds me of this thing that I always say, that a person, whether a male or a female, whoever is working, needs to be happy in the space of their workspace, because that's the maximum number of hours we are spending there.
Exactly.
And then if you are not happy there, you bring that energy to your personal space also. I hope I was able to express my feelings for you and the gratitude that I have and the kind of respect and space that I have of you in my mind and in my life. But there's a lot.
No, I'm just very grateful to you. I have had a wonderful morning, just, sharing, talking to you about very random things, from I think art to personal growth to
mental well-being,
to spiritual connections. I think it's been a wide range, and we've not even like covered the tip
same
of the
page. We're like literally talking as if she's saying and I'm completing, or I'm saying something and she's completing.
It's like we're like co-passengers on a train which is going to a similar destination. So, but I do have one question for you, and I don't know whether you will be able to articulate it just yet.
Try.
So it's a very powerful exercise. Okay, it may sound very morbid, but this is something I have done for myself, and it gives a lot of long-term clarity or visioning for yourself. Like, so if you were to write your own eulogy, okay, so assume you are dead. It's 45 years from now, hopefully, or whatever, 50 years or whatever, however long you live. And this is somebody writing your eulogy. How would you like to be remembered?
Wow.
Even if you say a couple of lines, it's a very powerful exercise, because now you'll choose your words very carefully. And that's the life you are to craft for yourself. Say it in third person, like Richa was
a soul who was aware of herself. She wanted to be at peace and happy when it comes to her mind, soul, and every pore, and wanted to spread the same sukoon, the same happiness, the same peace to whoever she got in touch or came in contact in her life.
That's beautiful. I'm going to make a small addition to this, right? I'm going to start off by saying Richa was an Oscar-winning filmmaker and everything that you just added after that, and a wonderfully amazing soul who has contributed hugely to the art world and the filmmaking world. So that's what I'm trying to say, that when you look at it 50 years from now, you'll have achieved so. And there's no harm in manifesting or putting these goals for yourself. It's not putting it on.
I do, mother, obviously putting out there, but I'll tell you why I said this thing, because when I was 12 years old, my mama, he wanted to ask, what do I want to do in life, like professionally, but instead, I don't know why, he asked me, what do you want in life? And I had said at that age saying that I want to be happy and at peace with myself.
Oh, wow.
And he
So
said,
you're already a very evolved, enlightened soul.
and I also don't know why did I say that, but I said it, and because at least I had this realization. Even while I was a child, I used to say this thing कि मैं जो करूँगी ना दिल से करूँगी, खुश रह के करूँगी. And I know कि if I will do it, whatever it is that I'm doing, whichever place I'm doing it from, whatever, I will grow. Because my crux is, if you're not doing anything from your heart, you cannot grow. And money was never the driving force in my life, even till today. If I like what I'm doing, if I like the people that I'm doing it with, I feel that all those energies, like, you know, come into very synchronized energy form, and it brings out the result that you're thinking, and maybe a better result. So I always felt कि जो करो दिल से करो, जो बोलो दिल से करो, अगर मन नहीं है तो मत करो. Because even if you put in your 100%, you will still not be happy with it. So might as well do it when you are doing it from your heart, because then you will do it not 100% but 500% better, and you will grow from there. So this is why I stick to कि मुझे नहीं पता कि मैं filmmaker बनूंगी नहीं बनूंगी. I will always strive till the last breath of my life. I will try to do that, and hopefully, if God's being kind and if that is my journey and that is my destination, He will make me sure I'll reach there.
Right.
But my priority is that कि wherever I am or whatever I'm doing, I just do it from my heart, and because that will keep me happy and at peace, and I will grow and I'll become a better human being, if not anything else.
That's wonderful. Honestly, Richa, I would say that you're a very blessed soul, because people have to live a lifetime and do a lot of self-work, inner work to arrive at this. I know it sounds very easy and it sounds very like, what's there? But, you know, to actually hold on to that essence of what your inner voice is saying to you, that, you know, is it really coming from a true place in your being?
I always say that whatever you see, it's not me, it's all my parents. Both of them.
Absolutely, I think.
And of course, the Almighty.
In fact, you were very generous with your words earlier, and I would say that I can't take credit for being poised or calm or any of those. I would attribute it to my mom. I've seen her be like, you know, still as a dry leaf in a raging storm.
Wow.
And I have a wonderful support system. My family, my partner, my friends,
I think you're blessed
all
that
of it.
way.
Very, very blessed. I am very, very lucky. As a soul, I am surrounded by a lot of love. And I have deep gratitude for that. So everything else is fine. It'll get figured out.
Yeah, so that's what you need. Your strong support system and the people who are there for you. I think life is good. Like, then you realize that you're actually rich. That's your wealth. That's your rich.
True luxuries of life are these you know, these people in your life, the love, the food you eat, the hot food you get on your plate. These are the true luxuries of life.
My dad always said that, you know, money anybody can have, but when you can earn genuine love and respect and trust of people, that's your wealth. That's your wealth.
I agree. All right. On that note,
thank you so much, Rituja, for coming.
So guys, this was Rituja. Next week, we'll have another guest and another inspiring journey. Till then, stay happy, stay kind, and stay grateful.